No.
3, 2.
Yeah.
Tell me when.
You're on.
Hi, folks. Welcome. November 4th. This is our YouTube live for the 1st of November. Guess I already said that. Welcome. Tonight's topic is Ask Me Anything. I'll tell you nothing. Tell you something. Just want to give you a quick recap of what's happened over the last 6 months. So we just finished our last Purple Heart workshop. Some of you may have were there to witness it. So we managed to get in class number 20. And I think if I did my counting right, we've had 155 soldiers, 3 females, go through our program. We had an incredible experience with the last one. We actually had Jack Hughes. And Jack is 95, World War II vet, Navy, and worked as hard as everybody else and sometimes even harder. It was amazing. If you're on, Jack, big shout out to you. So without any further ado, I'll introduce some more stuff because we got a special thing tonight with Angie. We got to sell these t-shirts. She needs work. I'll fill you that in a minute. Frick, can me a question or two?
Okay.
Did I catch you off guard?
Well, I'm still...
Remember, if you're in Canada, November 11th is Remembrance Day. November 11th in the United States is Veterans Day. So in Canada, we wear a poppy on your left side. So I have them right here just to remind you. Frick, question.
All right. Dan Vasquez in Jefferson, New Jersey.
Dana?
Dan Vasquez.
Dan. Hi, Dan.
Why is the hole on plane irons on the bottom of the blade instead of the top of the blade? It seems it would be easier to put the chip breaker on from there.
Oh. I'm Dan. I wasn't born. I didn't have anything to do with it. So he's saying, why isn't the big hole on the top instead of on the bottom?
Yeah, I guess so.
You know what? Like me, I'm inquisitive, and I ask those questions. How come it's done this way? And sometimes you can't trace it back to an answer. What did we just discover? Yeah, we're redoing this section. Not redoing it. We're doing the final section of this piece of my tool cabinet. And as the planes go in use, this one would normally be over here. And Jake said, well, why is it there? And I said, I don't know, it just ended up there. But actually it was a height issue. But there isn't always a good reason. Somebody just decided to do it that way, and then it became, well, that's the way you do it. So, don't know. But if you can figure out a way to drill a hole in it, you can change yours and let us know if it works. Don't wake Moose. There he is. Next.
Kevin Windsor in Bethel, Maine.
Hey, Kevin, that's close.
It's a question about wooden hinges. What do you think about using your drill jig to drill pilot holes on the ends of the segments and then completely drill through instead of cutting a pin in little segments? Give me a second. Oh, yeah. Instead of cutting a pin in little segments, rod to full length of the hinge.
Well, there is no advantage. And if you tried to drill a 16th-inch hole through a piece of hardwood and keep it on center, I don't think you would, I'm not so sure you'd be very successful. Once that drill bit gets out from beyond the support of either the chuck on the drill or in this case, the clamp. Now, just in case you don't know what he's talking about, Jake, Ken, could you grab me a wood hinge box? I actually want to tell them what we're going to do in the next newsletter. Grab me the walnut one if you would, and another cute one. Somewhere here I have my wood hinge drill jig. There it is right there. So, Jake, I'm waiting for you to come in close. There's a piece of round dowel. This is our little jig for drilling our wood hinge boxes. And in a moment, I have one here. So there's a wood hinge box. How close can I get without being fuzzy? Not. Anyway, it's the neatest way to put a hinge on a box. I'll show you up close when Jake gets the camera going. But in order to do it, you use a piece of 1/4-inch dowel, and you put a little pin in between each section. Now, his question was, why not drill a hole all the way through, put a rod all the way through? Number one, it's difficult to stay on center. And this one works because when this is in your, let me grab a drill. When this is in your electric drill, oh, it's a short chuck. That didn't work. Thank you. I meant the big walnut one, but that's all right. This is good.
No, it's the one that's all like the same.
That's okay. This is good. This works. All right, so here's the wood hinge box. See how the hinge disappears and then appears? And on the inside, it's nice and neat. There's one little one for business cards made out of maple. Now, in order to do that, you have to have a little pivot pin. I tried to use that drill and it didn't work. It's not deep. Oh, here's one right here. So here's how it comes apart. So this is the holder. This is a 16th inch drill bit. And it's held in place by 2 set screws, one on either side. And you can adjust this whatever you want for the depth that you make it. The farther out from the support of this piece you get, the more it has a chance to wander. Now in the kit, there's 4 of these. One's a 1/4 inch, one's 3/8, one is 1/2, and one is 3/4. And you just screw that on, like so. Then you chuck it up. And if you size your dowel properly, well, that one is, when this spins, and you stick that in, okay. It's a little snug. And you end up with a hole perfectly centered. And what we do is we take a little piece of welding rod, 1/16 of an inch long, 16 inch diameter, 1/4 inch long, and we put it in there, and you drill into the end of each piece. So when this opens up and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, the first one gets glued to the bottom, next one to top, bottom, top, bottom, top. And there's a little 1/4 inch long pin in between each section so that it will pivot. There's really no advantage to running it all the way through. It can't come apart. The only thing you could do is if you really wrench on this, you could break it, but what you're going to do is you're going to break the wood. The pin is sitting in a hole that's 0 clearance, so if it's done right, it works really nifty. Actually, speaking of that, these make wonderful Christmas presents. This one is made out of black walnut with a burl top. And our next newsletter for November is going to be a deep dive on making wood hinge boxes. So if you're on our newsletter, you'll get it, because those videos only go to newsletter recipients. And to get on our newsletter, just go to our website, RobCosman.com, and on every page, opportunity to sign up. We average 2 a month. 1 newsletter and then one possibly 2 flyers during the month to let you know about stuff. Any of our seconds, that always goes first. Anything we do.
New. Anything new, not second.
Anything new goes to the people on the newsletter first. Next, Frick.
All right, next question comes from Toby in Wisconsin.
Hey, Toby.
Do you have any tips or suggestions for avoiding chattering of the blade while using a spoke shave? I seem to run across this a lot, and the blade is definitely sharp. I'm guessing it is my technique and limited experience.
Well, actually, it is a bit of a, just looking for the flat bottom one. It is a little bit difficult because you have such a small registration area. So all you have making contact with the wood is there and there, and it's a small amount. If you have the blade out too far, you'll end up definitely getting a lot of chatter. And as you already mentioned, the blade has to be good and sharp. And the problem is that for a lot of folks that haven't learned how to sharpen properly, if it's a dull blade, you've got to really stick it out there quite a bit in order for it to get a hold of any of the wood. And then it has a tendency to bite in really deep, and it chatters and shakes and rocks and rolls. So my suggestion would be, 1, verify that it is nice and sharp. 2, don't have too much blade exposure. And then 3, you just have to learn to kind of get the feel of it. So when I'm doing this, you really need to be able to feel. These are from Jesse. I'll open these up in a minute. You really have to learn to feel where that sole is. And when you're pulling, you want to make sure that you stay in contact, meaning the sole stays in contact with the surface. Of the board. And you can push as well as pull, but you just, like I said, you don't have a lot of registration area, so. You can also put on a bit of an angle. By putting it on a bit of an angle, you increase the length of your sole. When you're playing like this, your sole's that wide. When you're playing like that, you've now got, your sole's effectively that long. So that may help it. And I find that if you do get a chatter, and you're going bumping along like this, the only way to if you keep trying to get rid of it this way, it's just going to follow it. So that way, if you skew it like this, you can often get underneath that chatter and remove it. Same thing with a hand plane. All right, if you're a combat wounded vet and you have been to as one of our guests, we'd love to say hello to you, give you a big shout out. So, Ken, are you watching for those? So if in the comment section you put at Ken, he'll notice you, hopefully, and tell me, and we'll say howdy. So Jesse Ruffianch, who's over in Nova Scotia, these are phone holders. So you can put your phone on there like that, or you can put it on like that, so you can go to the drive-in with your phone. And we'll give away some of these tonight. I'll put mine up there. Got lots of other stuff to give away tonight too, based on our success in fundraising. Just tell you real quick, I'll do it in little short bursts. So every year, now that we're back to some semblance of normality, we have 6 classes. I tried to squeeze in 7, I got overridden. So we have 6 classes. April, May, June, July. April, May, June, July, 4?
Yeah, that's what I said. But go on.
Huh?
Yeah.
How's that work?
What do you mean?
And then we have, September. Oh, April, May, June, July, and then September, October. Each class is 6 days long. We start Monday morning at 7 a.m. We end after supper on Saturday night. In every class, there's room for 7 civilian spots. These are paying customers. Your tuition includes all your meals, 3 meals a day, and they are just shy of phenomenal. And, of course, a little bit of woodworking as well to help burn off some of those calories. Every class has 7 combat wounded veterans. Are we calling out for applications now?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So if you are a combat wounded vet, that means while in a combat zone you were injured either physically or mentally, you are welcome to apply on our site, RobCosman.com. You fill out the application. You really have to tell your story well. And I don't mean embellish. I mean you just have to. All we have to go on is what you tell us, and we have to make a decision, a triage decision, based on what you tell us. So we'll do a total of 42 soldiers each year. And of those 42 soldiers, we cover their airfare to fly them in, pick them up at the airport, bring them here, cover their meals and their lodging. They have the class as our guests, and they'll take home approximately $4,000 worth of premium tools, the stuff that I use. As well, Jack Lane and Jim Merzetti and the Bench Brigade will arrange to have a workbench, lovely workbench built for you and delivered to your home, customized. So, the civilians, you're welcome to sign up for a class sometime between now and the 10th. The class availability will go live. I expect strong demand based on what's been going on in the past. You no longer need anything COVID related to get into Canada. No vaccine mandates, none of that stuff. That's all out the window. So come on, you're welcome. Frick, next question.
Sure.
Any bets yet, Kevin? Ken?
Mm-hmm.
Who?
He doesn't have a microphone.
Kevin Burris is on.
Kev's always on.
Does he want a mic?
John Beck.
Kev Burris, brother.
John
I was with Kev today. John back. Big thank you, John. We had a lovely donation from John. Apparently we missed it somehow. But John gave us John is nicknamed Santa Claus. John is I almost said World War II. John is a Vietnam vet. He was here in our class in May. I'm guessing it's saying May. It was either May or June. I may not remember all the details. And Kevin Burris is a combat wounded vet. Kev was 22 years EOD, explosive ordnance disposal with the Army, worked Special Forces. And Kev makes these. And we give one of these away as one of our gifts each night for every $1,000 that you donate towards the Purple Heart Project.
Use donate.
Use guys. We will turn around and give away a prize. And Frick, you Kim O'Connor, you didn't pick up the bag, did you? It's down in Calais. You probably didn't know about it. I didn't know you were going. Kim sent me a picture. I'm going to get it sent to you on the phone and see if you can display it. Sure. I'm going to walk over here and give you look in my text under Kim O'Connor. It might be under Mastermind Group too.
All right.
So Kim does really lovely, very artistic handbags.
Let's go back to questions.
Questions. Go to questions.
All right. Next question comes from Dave McKibben in Minnesota.
Hi, Dave in Minnesota. That's cold.
He says, if you were a beginner on the lathe, what few types of lathe chisel would you suggest for starter? And are they carbide or HSS?
Can we go over there? Mm-hmm. Let's go over here. We'll make my way around. You probably have to come this way as well. So, Dave, I spend a lot of time on the lathe because I seem to be the guy around here that does all the turning. So, I'll give you a little live demonstration. These are chisel handles. At least they will be in a minute. I have a little fan here that just keeps the dust out of my nose. Tighten that up. Turn this on. So, my tool of choice is a skew chisel. What is that, 1 inch?
That's 3/4.
3/4. This is high-speed steel. So you want to learn to turn properly. Learning to turn properly means learning to shear. If you don't shear, then you're scraping. So here's a tool that is designed to scrape. And you would go in like this, and you would scrape. Now you may say, what's the difference? Well, the surface quality is the difference. I'll crank this one out real quick, because when I take this over and hand it to Rick takes them from me and finishes them. But I give it to him in a condition because of this particular chisel that all he has. What does he use, Ken? 320? 220. Finishes with 220? You hear what he said?
I didn't.
Now, this may look easy, but it requires a bit of practice, because in order to cut with that sharp edge, you have to learn to rub the flat part, known as the bevel, of the tool on the spinning wood, and then you just tip and roll your chisel so that it cuts, but it cuts under control, meaning it's not allowing it to dig in deep. Then I would take that off. And you can't tell, but it's nice and smooth, and it doesn't take much in order to have that finished. So, a beginner or not, doesn't matter. You know, some people say, well, just start with carbide tools. Problem is that carbide tools aren't really turning, you're just scraping. So you're gonna want a couple. You're gonna want a parting tool. And you're gonna want a diamond parting tool. So it's wider in the middle, narrower at the ends. And I cut mine like this, so it's a steeper angle down here, then a long taper here, and it just seems to cut a little bit better. So you want a parting tool. That's a it's called a 3/16, so they're measuring this way. 3/16 parting tool. You're going to want a skew chisel, and I think 3/4 is plenty, and no reason to get anything different. And then you're going to want a spindle gouge. So that's a spindle gouge, kind of looks like a fingernail. And that is a 1/2 inch as well, I believe. And this is it's an M2 bowl gouge, M2 spindle gouge. But these are all high-speed steel, which simply means that if you burn them, it doesn't destroy the temper in the steel. I would have those 3. And if I look around, what you'll notice is most everything I have are just variations of that. So there's a small parting tool for doing tiny work. There's a small skew for doing small work. I have a small gouge in there as well. I do have some big scrapers that you need when you're getting on the inside of a bowl, but that's a different cup of tea altogether. All my turning is spindle work between centers. If you're doing bowls, then you're going to have a different set of tools. There's a deep bowl gouge, and that's considerably different. I don't use that on spindle work. I suppose I could if I had to, but. So I would go with those. I would say those 3 are the ones you want to start with. Parting tool, skew, and a spindle gouge. And I prefer that small one as opposed to those big deep ones that some people use, just preference. But I learned from the best, who happened to be Dale Nish. And you want a good lathe. You want one that's nice and steady and heavy and doesn't move around and vibrate on you. Next, Frick.
You want me to show the pictures or?
No.
Picture.
Let's go to
Kim's?
another question.
We'll go a few more questions, then we'll stop, and then I'll introduce some of Jeff's stuff, and I still need Danny's stuff. If Danny's watching, can Danny send us a picture, since we don't have anything here? If you can send us a picture, then Frick can do the same thing. What's up, Frick?
All right, Matt in Oregon.
Matt in Morgan?
Oregon.
Oh, Oregon, whereabouts?
Doesn't say.
I lived in Oregon, Matt.
He says, which is better, the sound of a freshly honed hand plane across a maple board or the sound of the puck hitting your hockey stick on a perfectly timed slap shot?
Well,
Maybe Moose should answer that one.
yeah, since Moose had an incredible slapper today,
And he's probably never...
you want to relive that one? Probably not.
Yeah, it was just a blur.
It's a blur for everybody. Wow, that's a toss-up. That is a toss-up. I'd have to just call that a draw. Next, Frick.
Todd Michael in Leaksdale, Ontario.
Hey, Todd. Oh, Ontario. God
You-
save the king.
Do you think if the internet was around back when you were struggling as a custom furniture builder, it would have increased your chances of being successful?
No. No. People don't buy furniture through the internet. Not custom furniture. It's something they have to see. The single biggest problem today for furniture makers is you have an audience, for the most part, that don't know boards come from trees. Not intended to be funny. So since they have no appreciation of raw material, then why would they want you to cut dovetails for them? That doesn't even make sense. They just want it to, they're looking for a look and a color. They don't understand that within a board of cherry, you're going to have multiple different hues. Might have some white sapwood. What?
Walnut.
Walnut, all of that stuff. So you're fighting an uphill battle. I found, and I tried to earn a living at this back in the 90s, sorry. I started in 89. You spend as much time trying to find those customers as you will doing the rest of it, designing it and building it and delivering it. Don't deliver your own work. So no, I don't think the internet would have helped at all. I don't see it as a venue for selling custom furniture. I don't think so. Ken, any more? If there's vets, would you just raise your hand or yell at me or something so I know?
I get one.
Yeah, well, let's hear them.
Now, some gave me their names, but they didn't specifically say they were vets, just which class they were in. So we got Kevin already and John Beck, Chuck, Gregory Hairston.
No, Chuck.
Oh, check.
Leave it at Chuck.
So I got to stop on him. So way back in class number uno, we had, tell you the story real quick. Jake and I literally had no experience and know what we were doing. Just decided that we were going to save half of the spots for combat wounded vets. We put it out on social media. We only had 7 apply. We took all 7. And Greg was one of them, Navy. And we had a blast. We had an absolute blast. He earned the nickname. He fell into the nickname Chuck. But I got him, he came back in September and was my assistant. So I always bring back a vet from a previous class to be my assistant for a future class. So we were able to bring Chuck in, and it was an absolute pleasure. Glad you're there.
Okay.
I hope you're feeling better too. Give me text me and let me know.
Ryan Groves.
Brian Groves.
No,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Oh, Ryan. Oh, Ryan was...
He was in the same class.
Was he in the same class?
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, Ryan.
Michael Delvoye.
Ah, Mike. Down in Florida?
No.
Isn't Mike...
Mike.
Oh,
Delvoye.
Mike is Vietnam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm pointing in that end of the class. Right. Hey, Mike.
Bob Abbott's on. Robert.
Bobbert. So Bob Abbott, he gets his wife to show him how to do these things. So this is called a tumbling block cutting board. He's got a new one too. I saw the other night. Really liked. And Bob makes these. Only says he knows they make me dizzy. He suffers from vertigo, so I don't know how he makes these without falling over. But that's another one of the gifts that we give away. Who else?
Kyle, class of 2017.
That would be Kyle Perrell.
New father.
Oh, yes. Big congratulations to Kyle up in the Newfoundland.
Casper.
And best of luck with his delivery in 2 years.
And he'll give us the Newfie word of the day today, maybe. Happy for you, Kyle.
Casper.
Casper. So if you look at this flag, this is a flag of Denmark. And Casper was one of our faraway vets. We've had one from Australia, one from Ireland, and one from Denmark, and Casper. So Casper's an excellent craftsman. He's been doing some really good work. I follow him on that, what's that thing called? WhatsApp? No.
Slack.
Slack. Great to have you.
Ralph Sutton, August 22.
Big Ralph. Hey, Ralph.
Walter Rau, RAU.
Wally up in Ontario. Canadian vet. Hey, Wally.
Frick.
Yes.
Frick.
What link are you sending people for? Where to donate?
Ken Moore.
Why is it not working?
Mark Smith.
No, it
Mark
is.
Smith. Well, Mark wasn't in our class, but Mark used to work here. Mark's a combat wounded Canadian vet. He and his wife's actually military as well now. They moved to Ontario. So every time I climb the stairs to my office, Mark, I think of you.
Jeff O'Connor.
Jeff O'Connor. So Jeff.
Hang on.
What's
Frick, switch
the matter?
cameras.
What's the matter? Getting tired?
No.
No. You can talk to the other camera.
So Jeff is the maker of the shave brush and bowl. And Jeff's also, you got to check out his Damascus knives. So go to O'Connor, Oconnor, unless you're from South Carolina, and it'll be ER. O'Connor Woodworks. And if you go under the kitchen thing, anyway, he's got a new item. It's really, really cool knife. But these are shave brushes that I love to use, and we give them away. That's one of our other gifts, as well as the Kiss Stick, which is down here. The Irish Kiss Stick. This is really popular with the bad guys who no longer like Cocobolo. Anybody else, Rick? Ken?
Jesse Marlar.
Oh, Jesse. Where is he? Hey, Jesse sat right here. Jesse is, where's Jesse live? I just saw Jesse. Jesse just shot a video today and laid out all of his tools. Good to hear from you, Jess. Anybody else, Ken? Okay, Jake, back to questions. So, while I'm waiting on Jake,
I got one.
if you would like to support these guys, did we figure out what it costs each year to do it? It's over 300,000, right?
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
In food.
Yeah. Anyway, want to be a part of it? You'll feel wonderful. It's people ask me all the time, why do you do it? I said, just come for one day and you'll understand. You back on your camera, Jake?
No.
I'm still looking up there. Go ahead, Frick. What's the question?
For some reason, the discount, the current sale, is being applied to the donations. So we're just trying to figure that out real quick. So,
Oh. Well, since we're talking about sales, we have to make some money.
Mark Smith donated 2,000.
Mark Smith did? Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, Mark. Awesome, brother. You'll sleep well tonight, and so will I. And so will some vet next year. So this is Angie. Angie is Ken's cousin. And Angie, sorry, Angie, getting a little dusty. I'm working in the shop too much. She's going to have to wear a dust mask now. Angie is currently confined to her bed. She has an illness that she's had for a long time, but she's getting better and soon will be here to work. But right now, what Angie does, she and her sister Lynn package all of our Purple Heart t-shirts. And we sell our Purple Heart t-shirts to help raise awareness of our Purple Heart program, because we probably find more soldiers through personal contact than any other way. You'll see Angie's picture on there on your shirt. And we have 3 different slogans. One says, wood is good. What's yours say, Jake? Wood is good. What's yours say, Ken? Wood doing good. This was Angie's own. This one is turquoise. And the military green one says, wood for good. We want to sell off all this whole bin, so you need to get a t-shirt tonight so you can help us. Buy a t-shirt and let us know. Each time one sells, we'll take it out and put it down below until we empty that bin and we put Angie to work. Harder. Frick, go ahead, please.
all right, this one comes from Bob Cunningham.
Hi, Bob. What camera am I on?
You're on the secondary. Oh, you're good?
Yep.
Okay, I'll switch back. This one comes from Bob Cunningham in the chat. He says, how do you install an IBC blade in a Wood River number 4? When I insert the plain blade, it won't project below the plain bottom. I backed off the frog. It still won't work. Should I file the leading edge?
Okay, so Bob is putting an IBC blade, which is 140 thousandths of an inch thick, into a Wood River number 4. The standard blade on a Wood River number 4 is 125 thou, so 15 thou doesn't make that big of a difference. And he's telling me that when he tries to put it in, he cannot get the blade to project all the way through?
Yes, it won't project below the plain bottom.
Okay,
He said he backed off the frog. It still won't work.
So he's pulled the frog back, and it still won't project all the way. So the next thing that I would try is I would pull the chip breaker back. So instead of having the chip breaker set right up here, really close, because that's such a thick blade, and I don't believe any of the stuff about a chip breaker. First of all, you have to remember that low angle planes do not have chip breakers, and they perform equally well. So the first thing I would do is pull your chip breaker back. So instead of having that blade, Moose, I might have to send you out there and calm those kids down. Jake, yeah, it's a grown. Where is my? So I would pull that chip breaker back.
Whatever is necessary.
Yeah, whatever's necessary. Try it right there. Now, you got to remember, the purpose of the chip breaker primarily was to provide support for the blade. That's why there's a gap underneath here. So as I tightened this, all that pressure went right out to the cutting edge, and the lever cap went on here and applied pressure to the chip breaker, and all that pressure went right out there to help stabilize it. Well, that was in little wee thin blades that were usually 80 thousandths of an inch thick. This is almost double that. You don't need to worry about it. Put it in there and try it, and I suspect it will work. The only other issue is if you ground your primary bevel too obtuse, meaning you're sitting up around 35 degrees, it may not project out for you. But try pulling the chip breaker back, and if you have time to try it and it doesn't work, jump back on with another question, and I'll see if I can't come up with reason number 8. Any more vets, Ken? Frick, question?
Yep, this one comes from
Are we on this camera?
Jin Sanawaski.
Pardon?
Jim Siniawaski
Oh yeah, I know Jim.
in West Homestead, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He says, with the cost of plywood, would buying metal-based cabinets be cheaper option for the shop?
Well, shoot, good metal cabinets are going to cost you more than the plywood. We have, yeah, wow. Can't imagine plywood being that expensive. And besides that, metal, what? I would build your cabinets out of wood. Only fitting. Next, Frick.
Yeah, this is from Jim. He's also in Pennsylvania. He says, besides yard sales...
Two Jims in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
This is a different Jim.
They ran out of names.
He said, besides yard sales, where's the best place to find panel saws? And are you going to make them?
Yes. Yes. And between now... Can I say this?
What?
Panel saws.
No. No.
Okay, so there's something really good about panel saws that Jake says I can't tell you right now. Stay tuned. Okay.
Other one?
Yeah.
Bob, who's also in Pennsylvania.
Holy Toledo, the whole state.
Do you clean up your sharpening station at the end of a work session? If so, can you give us some details?
Oh, yes. Yeah. They call me Mr. Clean around here. Are you kidding me? I sweep the floor for this because you guys complain if there's sawdust in the floor. No, I don't clean. That's why we use Honrite. Honrite you don't have to clean because you don't have to worry about it rusting. So get yourself a bottle of Honrite. Are we out, Jake?
Of what?
Honrite?
Honrite Gold?
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay.
I never
Honrite,
had
and it's diluted. So that little bottle of Honrite will what is it? How many liters? 250 milliliters of Honrite will make 6 liters, which is a gallon and a half of liquid, and it won't allow metal to rust. So go ahead and get that. I'm just bringing out the good stuff. So we haven't pumped this in a long time. Woodworking fuel. Pure, I thought I said pure magic. Pure maple syrup. This is locally, it's dark, it's delicious. Two different sizes. And this is our maple butter. If you haven't had maple butter, don't. You will not stop. Red. Navy blue, turquoise, and green. Help put Angie back to work. Get your t-shirt.
Hey, where's that new hoodie I designed?
Huh?
We don't know.
Where's the new what?
The new hoodie I designed.
Yes. We could have done a survey says. Next, Frick.
Yep.
Did you get Kim's picture?
Yeah, do you want me to show it?
Yes, please. So for I brought Kim O'Connor joined our mastermind group. This is a business group. We meet 3 times a week for an hour.
Frick, make this switch.
The idea is to help each other grow their business. These are combat wounded veterans. Kim could equally be called a combat wounded vet because she's married to one. And if you know anything about the plight of the families of these guys that have literally gone through hell, they come home and through no fault of their own, they deal with trauma, and it's debilitating. And the wives have to hold everything together. And they probably the most overlooked victim of that situation. So Kim is working to change that, having been through it herself. And I just think it's such a needed resource, and she's such a wonderful person to do it. So she's in our group, and she has her own business, snippetsandstitches.com. And so you may be lucky and you may get one of these. So I had her custom design a patriotic one for us. You're looking at it, and that'll go up. That'll go up for giveaway tonight if we do well in our donations. Next, Frick.
Just a second. Okay.
You can throw more at me. I can talk faster than this.
Eric Buchanan in Barrie,
Hi,
Ontario.
Eric.
What is the best way to sharpen a Rob Cosman dovetail marking knife?
A dovetail marking knife that we don't really use anymore. Well, let me dig one out. Now I've actually evolved, so I'll show you what I mean. We went from using a custom-made dovetail marking knife that we went through a lot of pain to have produced. They're in here. That's that red knife. And show you some of the characteristics of it. Try to find one that doesn't have glue stains, but I don't think I can. No, I can't. It's the only one I have. So here's the knife. And I had modified an old Stanley. Jake, can you come in closer?
Brick switch.
I had modified an old Stanley utility knife long time ago. This was back into the 80s, mid-80s. And I'd gone in and I'd modified the blade. And what I wanted the blade to be able to do was to have a long enough bevel on here so that when I laid it against the side of the tail, it would accurately give me a mark right where this meets that, instead of having a short little bevel on the end. So when you laid it up against this, the bevel was actually out from the point of contact. I had a little bit of a radius on there so that instead of a single point dragging through, and the problem with a single point is there's no tracking and it has a tendency to wander and follow the grain. But if you have a bit of a radius, then when you set that down into the wood, you've got a measurable amount of the blade in the wood, and that helps to track or keep it going in the same direction, straight. And the other thing is it wasn't terribly sharp. What I found was if it was really sharp, again, it was easy to follow the grain, and it was also easy to catch and actually cut into the side of your dovetail. So we had IBC make these and reproduce them, and they were a real pain to do, but we did them. So I typically don't want that to be sharp. If I had to go in and sharpen it up, I would simply use my diamond plate, which I think would be not only sufficient, but it would be nice and fast, whether handled or not. You just take that on there and keep that angle low, and just do a little bit of. Now, like doing a scrub blade, because there's a radius there. While you're doing this, you'll also have to roll like that. So the little circles, and then roll, and then flip it over. Lay it flat first and roll it up a little bit, and roll around that edge. And do that until you get it. You can see the little bit of a bevel that went on there. Do that until you get it as sharp as you want. But when I say we evolved, if you haven't learned to cut dovetails in my new way, you're missing an incredible opportunity. And the reason I say that is Jack Hughes, 95 years old. So who was in the class? Sibby, who was a pilot from Denmark. Iceland. Sorry. And the guy was precise. In fact, on the last day I went around, looked at everybody's dovetail, and we had some really good dovetails in there. His was perfect. And I gave him the award of the best dovetail in the class, but then I saw Jack's. So here's a guy who's 95, do the math, worked at it all week, and had a really decent dovetail. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? I got to take, sorry, Sibby, I have to take the honor away from you. It belongs to this guy. He's 95 years old, and his dovetail was remarkable. This method is foolproof because what it allows you to do, this blade is the same blade out of the dovetail saw. So when you've gone in and you've made a cut, you've laid out your dovetail, and now you're going in and you're making those cuts. Only have room for one on this piece. And now you're going to transfer that onto the second part, which is your pin board. What we used to do is we would remove the waste and we'd come in with that knife and we would carefully try to trace, but that always left room for error. It left room for error in the sense that the blade may wander, the blade may cut a little piece of the tail off, whatever. It was difficult. Now, with the sawtooth blade, we offset it using the Sean shim. Is Sean on tonight? Sean shim is an invention of Sean McDermott, combat wounded vet in our class back in 2017. And Sean came up with the idea. We turned it into a product, named it after him. We pay him a royalty on each one. And what that does, it provides the offset, which is essentially the amount that the saw kerf widths. When you put this sawtooth blade down inside that kerf, because it was made from the same blade as that, it can't wiggle left or right. And then you drag it through in the second piece of wood being your pin board. And then when you're done, your saw sets in that groove and there's no guessing where to start. You simply saw in the kerf that's already been started. And as long as you get your layout right, which is just a matter of paint by number, paying attention to a little bit of sequence and steps, Bob's your uncle. You get a perfect dovetail. So,
Next. We got lots of
next. Oh, lots. Okay, start firing. Rapid fire. Go.
John Root wants to know,
Hey, John.
adjusting the frog on a number 6, how do you know if it's too much or too little?
Adjusting the frog on number 6. How do you know if it's too much or too little? So I'm assuming you're talking about the gap. I adjust, if you're using it to control tear out, which is the only reason why you would adjust it closed, I want it to be just a little bit bigger than the thickness of the shaving you're bringing up. That's where you're going to get the greatest control over tear out. If it's any wider than that, that leaves room for that shaving, that chip, to lift and tear as a result of the blade digging in before it engages the pressure of this part of the sole. So the whole idea is to use this part of the sole to put pressure on the shaving so it cannot tear ahead of the blade. So have that closed down tight so that you can just get the shaving through. Next, please.
Bobby Bosworth
Hey, Bob.
says, I'm left-handed and I have a little trouble marking tenons. Do they make a reverse thread marking gauge rod? If not, you should look into it. Dollar sign.
Has a tendency to unwind. Yeah, I've noticed that too. I turned around one time to use it for something and found that. Little lighter pressure, maybe take more light passes.
I think
than
it'd be cheaper to just use Loctite.
Yeah, but he's talking about when you're using your mortise gauge and you tighten up the thread on that. When you go the other way, it has a tendency to unwind it. You know how the cutter screws in? If you really crank down on that little brass piece, you might be able to prevent it from
Lighter passes.
moving. That's what I said.
Reduce the pressure.
I said lighter passes, more of them. Next, Frick.
Doug Brown says,
Hi, Doug.
If given a choice for setting up a new shop on a budget, buy a table saw or a bandsaw, given I already have cheap contractor's table saw already?
I'm giving you my opinion. There's lots of them. I would buy, if you look around my shop, that's the center of the shop. So I would spend my money on the table saw and the table saw that I expect to have the day that I die. So cheap table saws are just dangerous, inaccurate, and not good. I would spend the money on a table saw. I'd rather have a cheap bandsaw than a cheap table saw. So mine's for the table saw, and I'll promote Saw Stop. It is the best saw for multiple reasons, above and beyond the safety feature. But that one's not to be overlooked. Any vets sneaking on? If you're a combat wounded vet, it's just tuning in, been to one of our classes, please say in the comment section, go at Ken.
I've seen Jeremy on there. Jeremy Thompson,
Jeremy from,
Kansas.
yeah, which class? September?
August.
August.
Because they
Yeah, I
didn't
thought
meet
so.
Luther.
Hey, Jeremy, brother. So if you're tuning in, at Ken, and give us your name and what class you were in so we can give you a shout out. Wonderful hearing from you. Go ahead, Frick.
This next one comes from Sean Grumbles.
Ah, Sean.
Who?
Sean Grumbles in East Greenwich, Rhode Island.
Sean always grumbles.
He says, have you ever...
Sounds like someone that probably has a lot of questions.
Oh, a lot of problems or questions?
He says, have you ever purposely drenched your passengers while driving your boat just because you thought it would be funny?
Oh, you guys don't know what such a good time we had. So I'll tell you this story real quick. We bought a tri-tune boat so we could take these guys out on the river just to give them a little diversion. This is Little Moose, by the way. And it was cold. This was October or September?
October.
October. It's chilly. So I had had 8 of them, I think, out there. And Mike, Big Mike, who's a Canadian vet from Edmonton, was on the front. And the seats kind of look like a hockey stick. So Mike was sitting on the seat that had him facing backwards. And we had to make the judgment call when we first went out. Do we go upriver or downriver based on the wind? And I thought upriver would be calmer. Well, I was wrong. And there were some pretty good swells. We're out on the St. John River. The swells were probably 3 feet, maybe even a little bit more. And Jake said, Dad, speed up, keep it planing so it'll ride high on the waves. So I did. He probably knew this was happening. So we're coming up, and you would get up onto the top of a swell, and as soon as you'd hit that midpoint and you would tip this way, you would go down the other side of the swell. Well, we did, went crashing into the bottom of the next wave. All I saw was this 8-foot wall of very cold water that Sean was too chicken to dive in and tell us how cold it was. And poor Mike was sitting there, and all of a sudden I didn't see Mike. He was drenched head to toe. Never saw it coming, had no warning. That was hilarious. Mike, you made my summer.
I don't know what
And
Sean's
Sean-
complaining about.
Should be ashamed of yourself, Navy guy, and wouldn't go into... Everybody want to know how cold it was. Send in the seal. Great to hear from you, Sean. Sean. Remember Sean? Next, Frick.
Yep, John Struzik in Henderson, Nevada.
Hey, John.
Do you sharpen a shoulder plane blade using the same method as you do for your block and jack plane blades? Thank you.
Same as the block, yeah. Yeah. And what you need to be aware of on the shoulder planes is you literally have no lateral adjustment. I mean, you do, but you don't. The amount that you can move that wouldn't amount to 1 degree. So you may have to actually match the edge of your blade to the sole of your plane so that you can get it parallel projection. So when I do that, the only thing I do different is, Moosey, is he picking at that little black rabbit? So
Give
go
it
for the glasses. Go for the glasses. So when you do it, he's no longer interested in the glasses. When you do it, instead of doing, you brat. Instead of doing circles, just do little forward and back strokes, little short ones, so as not to introduce a skew to that edge of that blade. And no feathering on the corners. You want a nice straight edge, but it takes seconds, literally. It's probably the quickest blade to sharpen.
All right.
Next.
Doug Brown in Boston,
Someone's grabbing.
Massachusetts.
Hey, Doug in Boston.
Have you ever used a fox wedge tenon joint?
Oh, don't let him grab that.
Fox wedged tenon joint.
Yeah, it says blind wedge tenon in brackets.
Blind wedge tenon.
Yeah. And if so, in what application?
Oh, I think what he's talking about is where you actually cut an internal through wedge tenon, only it's not through. And then, no, I haven't. Maybe I think I did one time. Let me, let me just see if I can grab if I can grab something to show you. Oh yeah, I do. I got it here.
Ethiopia.
So
Find out what
I
time
think
it
what
is.
he's referring to is this. So this is a through wedge tenon. See that? You've cut the joint all the way through. And the, if you can see, I'll try to point it out here. So we're going to talk about the mortise. The mortise is the hole through this piece. So the mortise is sloped. The opening on this end is larger than the opening on this end. So before you put the tenon, this piece through, you've made 2 saw cuts in it, there and there. So then when you put it through, obviously there's a big gap on this side and on that side, and there's a saw curve here and a saw curve here. You then take a wedge that you've carefully measured, and you want it to fill that void when you drive that wedge down in. And what it results in is an extremely strong joint because it's essentially an internal dovetail. So in order for this to come apart through tensile force, you got to force this big wide opening through this small opening, and that's not going to happen without destroying the wood. So what he's talking about is one where, if you can imagine, it doesn't go all the way through. So you've created that same mortise that is wedged like this, but it stops at the bottom. And as you put it together, you would have it glued, you would have the wedges already in there, and as you would start to tap it, when it comes up tight here, it should be at the same time that the internal bits are coming up tight here in order for it to work well. Pretty sure that's what he's making reference to. Complicated joint. Now, here's my feelings about it. There are probably less complicated ways of securing that joint. And I would explore them for the simple reason, I mean, how are you going to tell somebody about this? You can tell them what you did, but you can't show them. Whereas this one is designed to be seen. You see it from the outside. Same thing with a secret mitered dovetail. Well, if you ever see it, it failed. Then you don't want to tell anybody about it. So rather than do something like that, if it's hidden and you're not ever going to see it, do it whatever way is fastest and easiest. If it's going to be a part of the feature, meaning people are going to open that up and look at that dovetail and say, oh, wow, isn't that nice? In that case, do it by hand, display your talent, be a Jack Hughes. Ken, what do you got for me?
We got John Borden is on, Sid.
Sid. So John Borden, also known as Sid because he's from Sydney, Nova Scotia, is a retired Canadian combat wounded vet, lives in Ormocto, which isn't far away. And John came to our September class and said to me at the end of it, he says, Rob, he said, I'd really like to come maybe volunteer down here. So is he on the payroll or is he volunteer?
Volunteer.
Is he volunteering? That's even better. He wanted to. So he comes down. What?
Maybe he doesn't know that.
Yeah. He comes down one day a week and helps out in the shop, and it's great to have him. Great to be able to connect with, to remain in connection with these guys. We also have Al McNeil, and Al came, knocked on my door one day, combat wounded vet, not doing very well, offered him a job. He's been here ever since, works 2 days a week. Al was in our class last August of 2021. And he was my assistant one of the classes this summer. Al's a great guy. Al's my friend. Al's also quite a bagpiper. He can squeeze that cat and make really cool noises.
Mike Leilman, September 22.
Mike, okay, which one's, I gotta get
Mike's the one in Florida.
Oh, Mike's in Florida.
Yeah.
Jake T.
Oh, Mike is EOD?
I don't know.
That's the Mike?
I don't.
Which Mike we
He's
talking?
active duty. He was the one that went home with COVID.
Oh, oh yeah, right. Mike sat right there in the middle in the front and gave everybody COVID. Hey, Mike. I know you're better.
Jake T, he didn't give a year or...
Jake Tarola.
Okay.
Jake is, Jake Moose, you want to say hello to Jake?
Hey, Jake.
You have to say it loud because you don't have a microphone.
Hey, Jake.
Sweater's not working. Gonna have to change that up. Jake's a great guy. Jake will be up here being our assistant sometime in the near future. In fact, tried to get him, but he couldn't work out the dates, but we'll have him next year. Awesome guy. Jake was a forward observer. If you don't know what that is, he's the guy that goes out there and calls in artillery strikes. And I just remember asking him one time, I said, how close would you dare call in a strike? And he said, it depends on who's shooting.
Not Luther.
So make good, yeah, not Luther. Make friends with the guy aiming the cannon.
Jim Eakin, June 22.
Hey, Jim. Yeah.
Tim Pierce.
Golden eye.
Why do you say that?
Because he has gold in his eye.
Oh, Jim with the, Jim. Now I remember. Coolest thing I've ever seen. So Jim was injured in, I'm pretty sure it was Iraq. And part of the injury destroyed the nerve in his eyelid, so his eye wouldn't close. So he's got this little piece of gold. I shouldn't tell those people be wanting to beat him up and take his eyelid. He's got a little piece of gold inserted on his eyelid so that gravity will close his eye. You wouldn't know it unless somebody pointed it out, but when you look at it, it's like a little pillow in there. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Some of the simplest solutions are the best. Hey, Jim.
Tim Pierce from September 2020.
Hey, Tim. Tim is a Vietnam vet, friend of Jeff O'Connor's, fantastic guy. O'Connor. Glad you're here, Tim.
And we have this isn't a vet or anybody's been in the class, but we have somebody asking a question in the chat from Ethiopia. I think it's the first time we've got.
Oh, yeah? What's the question?
He wanted to know if catch-all trays made from a single hardwood, properly dried, thickness being about 1 inch, depth of the tray 1/2 inch, can warp after a while and bend or crack. Yeah.
Well, I mean, anytime you introduce dry wood to moisture, you're asking for. You got to remember, a piece of wood is always trying to reach equilibrium, and it's susceptible to moisture. So if you immerse it, it's going to suck up that water, and then when it sucks it up, the cells swell and it expands, and then as it dries, those cells shrink, and it shrinks. So you're causing a piece of wood to do this and this. So if it was only wet down here and dry up in here, although it would wick a little bit, there's going to be some uneven movement. So, you know, you're kind of asking for trouble, and I don't know if there's any way to prevent it other than torrefied. Torrefied is where they cook wood in the absence of oxygen so it doesn't burn, and it changes the cell structure such that it does not absorb moisture. So it weakens it, so as long as you're not using it in small pieces, but if it's a large platter or something, that would be an interesting experiment to do. I introduced Jeff's, I introduced Kevin's, I introduced Bob's, I introduced Kim's. Did we get a picture from Danny?
Yes, but give me a second.
All right, you let me know when you're ready to put it up. Don't forget, we got to sell these T-shirts. Angie is sitting there looking for something to do. Get her busy packaging them. Wear it proudly. I think that's the only thing we wear around here. Wood for good. Wood doing good. Wood for good. Wood is good. If you need to know what they look like on the backside, that's what they look like. Next question, Frick. We got lots of time.
Next question comes from Paul Francoeur in Montreal.
Hi, Paul.
If drawers don't have guides, how do you prevent wearing out the contact points?
Now,
good
you
question.
use something called a drawer slip. So these pieces of mahogany, which look really neat on the inside, are a way of increasing the wear surface and increasing the wear surface without increasing the weight of the drawer substantially. If you had a big, wide, thick drawer side, you'd have a lot more wear surface, but the drawer would not only be clumsy looking, but it would be heavy. So this way you glue these small pieces on, and you can glue on a piece of harder wood that increases that wear surface, makes it last a whole lot longer. Looks really cool. And we're gonna do, did we do a video on it? No, we're about to do a YouTube on it, so stay tuned.
All right, I'm showing the picture of the Danny.
So Danny Bell, AKA Danny Bell, is a retired Chinook helicopter pilot. He flew special with the 160th.
A rotor head, as Luther would call him.
Rotor
head.
Rotor head. Not the 160th, the 160th.
Yeah.
Is it the 160th? Special Forces. Danny's got an incredible career. I mean, he was a break dancer, a rap artist, and then he started out as a crew chief. He was a mechanic, ended up flying and being a pilot. Danny retired recently, moved to Maine from down in Tennessee. This is Danny's fridge magnet. He was in Clarksville. Very, very accomplished woodworker. He's been my assistant here how many times?
Like 8 or something like that?
Oh, yeah, at least 8. Anyway, Danny's a great guy. Danny set the mood such that there'll never be another Danny Bell, as long as we still have the one we have. So Danny's part of our group. And Danny and his wife, Jenna, have lived with their children down in Maine. And he's putting together his woodworking business, so we're helping out. So you're looking at the dividers. Danny does very good work. So that'll be another prize that we will give away depending on how many donations we get. Where are we by tonight? How many are we giving away? Anybody know? We give away one of these prizes. They all have a value of about $300 for every $1,000 we raise. We buy them from the vets at retail so that they're benefiting from this as well. Any others?
Sue B wants to know.
No, I answered it.
Okay, never mind.
Next
question.
Oh,
well, Sue B's down in Florida. She's waiting for us to come back and return. We may be there sooner than you think, Sue.
Hopefully.
Bob Cunningham moved the chip breaker back to 3/16 and it works fine.
Good, Bob. You won't notice any difference in performance. Might have been a little bit of a change in geometry. If you were to take your two blades and compare them, or more likely your chip breakers, and see where the slot is for the yoke, that was probably the issue.
This Joe Mahalik in the chat just wants to know what the 3 horizontal tools are below the chisels.
These?
Yeah.
This is a PEC 18-inch steel rule.
Straight edge.
Straight edge. This is a PEC 12-inch straight edge steel rule, and this is a PEC 6-inch steel rule. We sell all of them here. Why PEC? Well, they're made in California, and I think they compete with Starrett as far as quality, but they're a whole lot less. To give you a quick example, this is a Starrett 12-inch engineer square. If you go on and try to find that on the internet, you'll pay somewhere between $700 and $800 US for it. A 12-inch PEC steel rule is 110?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
20? We've checked them, and by checking them, we take of course, this is a 6-inch, but we put another steel rule in there, like so, and we take a shim, a 1 thou shim, and if you can't pull the shim out, then you know you're within that tolerance. And by that I mean this is 1.5 thou, but as long as there's resistance, then you know it's well within that tolerance. And we did it with 1 thou shim, and it was good. So great deal. And this is such a wonderful. I bought this before we had found PEC, but it's such a good, accurate tool to use when you're setting up something that's a little on the big side. Next question, Frick.
Jerry DeTwiller in Odessa.
Hi, Jerry.
Missouri. What is the difference between the Wood River marking gauge and yours? Does the Wood River gauge also have a flat side?
Yeah, so what we do is we just take an inexpensive Wood River one and we Cosmanize it. We cut the flat on here. We drill, we flatten the face, which is the most important, because if the face is not flat, it wobbles when you try to use it. So we flatten the face, we cut that so it won't roll off the bench. We cut a countersink down in there so that the blade will go all the way in. Also equally important, we sharpen the blade so that it actually cuts. What else do we do to that? I think that's it. Oh, and we, and we, yeah. It's a little clumsy in the hand. Those Babinga, it's just, it's clumsy. It works, but it's clumsy. Our ones that we make are streamlined and a little nicer to use. What are you after?
Don't you worry. Keep going.
Okay.
Next, sir.
Your mic's out of battery.
Mine is?
It's not.
Oh, he just has it muted. Okay, this one's from Roger in Des Moines,
You
Iowa.
muted my mic?
No, his own. Roger in Des Moines, Iowa. He says, why do you use a hunched mortise? What is the purpose of it? Strength or appearance?
That's a good question. I'm not sure why they do that. So what he's talking about, did I do it somewhere, Jake? Did I do it here? Yeah, I did. I can't take this door off to show you, but what you have on this door frame is you have a tenon on this going into a mortise on this. So normally what you would do is you would cut your mortise like that, and I would stay away from out here because there's just not enough strength there, especially when you're chopping it. So what they would do in a haunched is the groove, this is probably the reason. So there's a groove that is cut on this piece that houses this panel. There's a groove all the way around. So it's easier to run the groove all the way through and instead of trying to stop it. And since it runs all the way through, you got to fill it with something. So when they cut the tenon on here, the tenon ends up looking like pause. Instead of the tenon looking like this, the tenon has a little piece added on here. So that goes away. This part goes away. So now your tenon comes down here and over. And this is just long enough to fill that little groove left on this is called a stile. On this stile, the groove that has been cut to house the panel is now filled. It would also give it a little more resistance to twisting because you have, instead of having just this amount preventing your twisting, now you've got, actually I would probably be all the way over to here. So you would have from here all the way over all of that material, so it would make for a stronger joint.
Okay. Any question from Andrew Gonzalez?
Can't hear you.
Hello, this is a question from Andrew Gonzalez. Where from?
No, I don't know. It's in
Don't
the
know.
chat. He said, is there any real benefit from a mid-budget chisel to a higher quality chisel other than not sharpening as often?
And why did you bring me all these?
So you can show mid-budget chisels to higher quality chisels.
Okay. Well, this is going to be long. Any more vets to say hi to? So, it doesn't get any simpler than this.
Well,
Let me get a handle that I really like. This one. This handle is a piece of desert ironwood. Where's he going? It's simple, right? It's a piece of pointed steel with a wooden handle. And that's it. That's all there is to it. However, it's also a very precise tool. And when you use it, you want, number one, you want predictability. So when I pick up that tool and I go to do something with it, I want to know exactly what it's going to do when I apply it to whatever procedure I'm going to apply it to. Meaning, when I'm trying to pick up a small shaving right here, if I'm having to lift, obviously the back's not flat. Because if the back is flat, it should engage instantly. When I'm chopping, if the back's not flat, it's going to go off like that. So predictability is really important. For that reason, I need to have the back flat. The manufacturer's responsibility is to send it to me as flat as they can get it. Not polished, flat. So here's a bad example. This is a Stanley Sweetheart. I have no respect for these chisels. because it's almost like they heat them up and give them a good twist before they send them to you. They're so far out of flat, they take a tremendous amount of work. These ones are flat because we went in and worked them. So I want a chisel that comes to me flat. My only job then is just to go in and remove the milling marks so that I get as good an edge as possible. I want the shape to be proper, meaning I want reliefs on the side that go all the way. So you see how no matter how much of this I ground away, it'll always fit in between two tails so that I won't be bruising the side of a tail because there was no relief. You see how that relief is a little bit here, but then it just grows all the way back. Good chisels have that relief from the bottom all the way back. I want good steel. But I've already told you the main reason for not buying cheap chisels. Cheap chisels are going to have the least attention to detail, meaning they're not going to come to you flat. You're going to have to do a ton of work to fix them. Well, if I'm going to invest a ton of work to getting these right, I want that steel to hold an edge as long as possible. But if your chisel comes to you in such poor condition, it looks like nobody really cared about what they were doing, don't expect really good steel to be in it either. So that's why it's worth, you're going to have these the rest of your life. You're not going to wear them out. Not unless you're 2. And if that's the case, then why would you torture yourself with something that is irritating every time you pick it up? I'll also mention this. I want it to be perfectly balanced. Ergonomically, I want it to fit my hand. I want a handle that fits really well, which is why we do our own handles now, because we want them to fit. We want them to fill that adult male hand. Sorry for being a sexist, but most of our customers are males, so we cater to them. If you're not and you want someone different, you let me know and I'll turn you smaller ones. So I want it to be ergonomically beautiful, good steel, properly prepared, properly designed. So my job is just going in and doing the back and cut and doing the edge. And if you want to go one step further, the preparation phase is a long, arduous process. So if you pick up this chisel, you're constantly bumping into that. If you pick up this chisel, you're bumping into, worse than that, you're not bumping into it. You're going to ride, if you're not careful, you ride up on that, and that takes away from your flat tip. This one's a little bit better because there's a relief right there, so you're flat. But if you get out there without realizing it, you hit that cone and it raises up. You're going to find the same problem with this one.
You notice that?
What?
Somebody dropped that.
Holy, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Took a big chunk out of it.
Probably Sean.
These are a display on our wall. Sean did that, yeah. Didn't tell anybody. So these, the nice thing about them, and we designed these, you can take it apart, strip it down. So when you're preparing it on your chisel, on your stones, these are the ones we give to the vets. The whole chisel lays perfectly flat on the stones. You don't have to have any of those issues I just dealt with. You can also then turn your own handle. If you want to make a really light chisel, you can make it out of pine, because the cap, the aluminum cap, is connected to the chisel through this connecting rod and this ferrule, so you're never actually hitting the wood. And because of that, you don't really have to pay any attention to the durability of the wood like you would have to in other chisel handles. There you go. Next.
Al's on.
Al McNeil. Tank Commander Al McNeil. This is the first round he fired as a tank commander in the Canadian Army, Lord Strathcona's. And someday I'll tell you the story about that. It's really fascinating what that will do. That's actually not real. The casing is, but the projectile is made out of walnut. A vet up in Ormocto made that for me and brought it down.
Wally is on.
Yeah, I said hi to Wally. Al works here 2 times. Al, by the way, Al, you can come in tomorrow. Or can he come in tomorrow? Did the springs get fixed?
No, he was coming in today. He didn't come.
Oh, no. Springs didn't get fixed, Al. We got to figure that out. I got an idea, though. Next. Any other vets? Ken? Al, or what's your name over there? Frick? Sorry.
Carl Navagato in Geneva, Illinois.
Hey, Carl.
On the Cosman workbench build, have you attempted to use a vacuum press clamping for the bench top? If so, how successful has it been? Does it meet the Rob Cosman quality standards?
It's great success. Thanks to Chris
Luther's here.
Davenport at RPC. Chris built us. Can we go over and show it to them?
No.
Why not?
2 metal buildings away? Not a chance.
Can we, Frick?
Yeah.
The vacuum press?
Oh, no. Well,
Yeah.
isn't it right across the...
Yeah.
2 metal buildings away. What do you think?
Well, may as well try.
Can't go into the classroom.
We can.
Okay, let's go.
Let's try.
Ken, you yell at us if we lose them.
I'd love to yell.
I'll yell. I can hear.
Are we still in?
You're in video range, but no audio.
No audio?
Barely.
Well, it's over there. Sorry. Yes, it works really well. Chris made it for us. The bottom is really flat, so everything gets sucked down, so we get a really flat surface. And if you want to have a peek out here of the benches that we've been making that will soon be up for sale, there's we've got 2 in boxes, and there's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sitting there. What you'll notice, now these are made, the dark ones are made out of water-resistant MDF. That's what we've been waiting for. Does not absorb moisture. They design it for use for outdoor signs. The white one is made with a Baltic birch top, so it's 3 inches of plywood. And there's some more here that are being assembled. So we'll have 12, 15 of them ready to go right away. So yes, the vacuum press works extremely well, and in fact, it's changed the whole the bench building process for us. Have we sold any T-shirts? Somebody helping out and buying some T-shirts? We need to flood the market.
I can't.
Next question, please, Frick.
Pull it up.
Brian in Northern Kentucky.
Buy the whole family a T-shirt. Brian in Northern Kentucky. How are you, Brian?
He says, in your recent testing, you discovered that end grain glue-ups do possess a fair amount of strength.
A lot.
So does this now mean that the English hidden miter dovetail could now be considered the strongest form of joinery for drawers and the like?
Hidden?
So does this now mean that the English hidden miter dovetail could now be considered the strongest form of joinery for drawers and the like?
I don't know what would make that any stronger than a regular dovetail. But I would never do it for the simple reason that, I do this because I love looking at it. So last thing I want to do is hide it. So I'm either not getting getting the meaning of your question. That's a really nice handle. Ahmed made those. That's black and white ebony. Beautiful stuff. Next question, Frick.
Lee Diggins in UK.
Hey, Lee, in the UK.
Listen up, it's a long one. I've just purchased a 1/4 inch 17-degree chisel from you. Do you have any preparation and sharpening tips or advice you could share, please? I'm assuming the back prep is identical, though my concern is the secondary and tertiary bevels and getting these established correctly. Any information you could supply would be great.
And it's Neil?
Lee.
Lee. So, Lee, here's my 17-degree.
Your 1/2 inch is right there.
Yeah, well, he bought a 1/4, so I was going to use a 1/4. So the only thing you want to make sure is don't ruin your 17-degree by bringing up and doing your secondary or tertiary like this. So if there's my 17, I'm right there for my 17, pardon me, if there's my 17-degree primary, I'm right there for a secondary, I'm right there for a tertiary. So I'm no more than, maybe 2 degrees higher for my secondary and tertiary. If you can look at side angle on there, you'll see there's hardly any change. So keep it low. And it's really easy.
Yes, the prep on the back is the same.
Yes, the prep on the back is the same. You want to polish it up just like that. So you get it in there like that, and I just do little wee short strokes like this. Don't try to do the circles, you'll end up skewing it. So just little wee short strokes, feel for a burr. As soon as you get a burr, over to the 16,000 stone, up just a little bit higher, little wee short strokes, it'll be polished, flip it over on its back, get rid of the burr, away you go. How's that? Next, Frick.
Chris in Kingwood, Texas.
Chris in Texas.
I've used your floating dowel method to attach a tabletop to a frame with great success. Would you recommend that or another method to attach a chair seat to a chair frame?
Nope, that's how I do mine. Look right here. So this has been around for this prototype that I'm about to show you. I built in either 89 or 90. Thinking it was 90. And I did it in the process of designing a chair for a private school that wanted seating for 200. Actually, they wanted it replaced. So this chair has managed to stay apart. It's just a shop chair. We use it for standing on, and there's how the seat is held in place. And I wasn't, this, like I said, it was a prototype, so I just used regular gluing dowels instead of nice fancy dowels. But so that is screwed and glued to this, floats in the hole. That is screwed and glued to both. That dowel is screwed and glued to both, so all the movement goes out from the center equally. And these are screwed and glued, screwed and glued, screwed and glued, but they're dry fit in the hole. And you can see the little bit of movement. You see a little bit of where it hasn't oxidized, but that'll change seasonally. Never come apart. So yes, good way of doing it. Next, Frick.
Next question's from Ebby
Ebby.
in Bonaire.
EOD, Ebby,
Georgia.
Air Force EOD down in Atlanta. Not Atlanta, but I know he's in Georgia. Ebby was here in our class in 2019.
He says, what is the quality lifespan of bench hooks and dowel cutting jigs since the kerf that it is set to be the width of the saw blade gradually widens by inserting and removing the saw over time?
Lifespan of a bench hook.
Lifespan of a bench hook?
Yeah, so you've got, or the wood hinge bone, where you've got that kerf cut in the fence, but every time that you use it, you're...
Oh, yeah. Well, when it wears out, put in a new one.
Super Dave says that he is glad you took his advice on the design of that chair.
And to think, he's so powerful. That actually happened before I even met him. So he got me in his tractor beam and influenced me. So this would be Super Dave. Is this before diet or after diet?
After.
Walked into that one. So this is Super Dave under the dust. And this is his brother.
Shake off the
When?
dust, Super Dave.
When?
He's coming here in 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah, that's right, too. That's going to be awesome. Super Dave's coming here.
3 weeks.
So this is David Benson, 17 years, Army and Navy. Went from he was posted in the Navy down in Cuba and Guantanamo, and he thought it was a really hard life diving for shellfish, or just diving for fun. Felt guilty, needed to do more for his country, so he joined the Army, and was posted in Afghanistan up near the Pakistan border, and got into a situation where an RPG landed not far from him and took all the shrapnel to his head. So left him with a bad, severe TBI. We met him, and the rest is history. This is known as Super Dave Wood, even though Ahmed made it. It's Vera Wood, which is licensed to us by Super David Benson. Nobody else is allowed to use it. The whole tree. Sorry you're in the back there, Dave. We're just protecting you. See you soon.
Luther's on.
And Luther's on. Well, Luther, the other half of Super
After
Dave.
his third colonoscopy, by request.
He keeps going back for 9th opinions. I don't know if I want to go there.
Request a tall doctor, too.
Jeez.
Frick, next, quick. Hurry, let's get off this topic.
Okay. Alan Bennett in Liverpool. He says, I have a Scandinavian workbench, Sjoberg,
Hi, Alan.
with 2 wooden vice screws, but they are binding and are very difficult to open and close up. Is there something I should be doing in the way of lubrication so they stop binding?
If they're Schoberg vices, the reason they're binding may very well be that center screw is just is making contact with the underside of the bench. So take the whole thing off and check and see if you see a lot of wear marks. You can go in there with a gouge and cut a little trough just to free it up. I can't imagine why the Schoberg vise would be binding. You might have the there's 2 Schoberg vise also has 2 adjustment screws down underneath, and so the 2 screws squeeze a piece of steel that squeezes against a piece of phenolic resin, which then squeezes against the frame that you see when you open and close the vise. And if you've had those too tight, they may be causing you a little bit of grief. And you could also, I wouldn't oil it. I might go in and wipe it with might wipe all the parts with an oily rag. But if you oil it, you're just asking for more dust and junk and gunk to accumulate on it. So, next, Rick.
Next one comes from Wayne Miller in Southern Virginia.
Hi, Wayne.
Can I use a Osmo finish over a raw wood keepsake box with black milk paint lettering? The wood is Ambrosia Maple in Walmart. If not, what other finish would you suggest?
Wow. I'm not familiar with either of those finishes. If it's a small box, I would either use lacquer. I would actually buy Deft satin lacquer in a spray can. Why in a spray can? Because it just lays a lovely fine mist on there. It's beautiful. Or I would use a tung oil, which is a lot more labor intensive because you have to have multiple coats in order to get any kind of built up finish. Whereas the lacquer, you could spray 3 coats in an hour and a half and be done with it. Beautiful finish. But I'm sorry I can't comment on those. How are we going to get more questions, Rick, if you're leaving?
Jake, read one from the chat real quick.
Sure.
Can any more vets?
Just Super Dave.
Just Super Dave?
Only Super.
The Super Dave. The goat.
There was a good one right here.
Right where?
Oh, could you explain your thoughts on 3 hand planes if you were to only have a budget for 3?
If I had a budget for 3 hand planes, what 3 would I buy? Well, my first one. So in answering that question, I'm going to say, okay, well, what ones do get used the most? This is my most used. This is a 5.5. 5.5 is a little better than 14 inches long, has a 2 3/8 inch wide blade. It's made for a man hand.
15.
15 inch long. So it's really comfortable. I made mine even more comfortable by taking the handle down lower here so my pinky isn't squeezed. It's designed for a 3-finger grip like that. Plane that I use 85, maybe 90% of the time. A number 6, which is what we give to all the vets, is almost the same plane. The only difference you'll notice is, what is that, 2 5/8?
Not even close. 2 3/4.
2 and maybe 5/8 of an inch difference in length. In other words, it's the exact same plane. So you could do either of those. That would be number 1. If you don't foresee buying a longer jointer, then go with the number 6. Number 2 would be my low-angle block plane. Why? Well, because it's a one-handed tool, and there are times, if you're coming in to cut a chamfer, pardon me for yawning, you're going to want to go in. It's very difficult to cut a chamfer with this unless you're Jeff O'Connor with the big pipes. Otherwise, most of us, we mere mortals, would like to use a small block plane that we can operate one-handed with lots of control. So that would be plane number 2. And plane number 3, which doesn't get used very much at all, but you need to have a plane that has a blade that goes all the way to either side. This is your shoulder plane. This is a 3/4 shoulder plane, all you'll ever need in a shoulder plane. And because the blade goes all the way, you can work into a vertical surface, whether it's doing something like that, whether it's doing the shoulder on a tenon. Anytime you've got to get into a vertical surface, you can't do it with the block plane or a 5.5 because the blade doesn't go all the way. Those would be the 3. My recommendations, Wood River. Why? Well, because right now it represents the best value, meaning you're getting the best user plane for the money spent. Lee-Nielsen's are better, but the better comes at a price, and it's somewhat superfluous, meaning, little finer finish in some of the areas. Handles may be finished a little bit better, whatever. But if you want to really soup up your plane, you buy an adjuster. See that? We make them. This was our solution to a adjuster knob that is so hard to turn. We make them for Stanley's, we make them for Lee-Nielsen's, and we make them for Wood River and Luban. And they just give you lots of leverage. What's Super Dave saying? He's all pumped about the fishing trip we're going to go on when he comes?
He said Jeff had a smaller version of the 5.5 and a shirt from Baby Gap, so his arms look bigger with the plane in his hand.
It's constant. It's like refereeing these kids. Next, Rick.
Next one comes from Jerry in upstate New York.
Hi, Jerry.
He says, I'm crafting some heirloom/keepsake boxes. Any tips on controlling the color bleed from Paduke to hard maple?
Oh, wow.
The top of the box has strips of each glued together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the dye, the color in Paduke, you're going to, you can't use oil. Oil will make it bleed. Lacquer will certainly make it bleed. I don't know what you're going to do. And then once it gets into the maple, that's a really noticeable stain. We did a short clip the other day. Was it a YouTube we did, Jake?
On what?
On all the different woods, or was it?
It was
Instagram.
It was an Instagram post.
Instagram. And I just took lacquer thinner, and I had several pieces of different exotic woods, and I just wanted to go in and show you what it looked like when it was wet, meaning we put a finish on, and that lacquer thinner. Oh, the purple in the Kingwood came over and stained the next board. The orange transferred over from the Paduke. So I don't know. You're going to have a tough one solving that problem. You got to be really careful. You always have to plan that out in advance. If you're going to deal with something like that, you're going to get bleed. Don't know how you can avoid it, especially when two pieces are glued side by side. Good luck. Next, Rick.
Gary C. in Nebraska.
Hey, Gary.
He says, I want to shoot longer miters, such as corners of miter boxes. I'm looking to see if there is a way to accurately create a donkey's ear and use with shooting boards. Any other suggestions for getting accurate mitered corners for small boxes? Thanks.
Accurate mitered corners for small boxes. Well, Luther's got me scheduled to do a YouTube on making a special little shooting board. Huh?
It's out there on that bench.
Special little shooting board that will hold your board at a 45-degree angle so you can shoot it like that.
Hold your plane at a 40.
Hold your plane, sorry. Yes, right. Your board lays there, your plane lays over at a 45-degree angle so you can plane that and get it nice and clean. We'll do it sometime in the next 2 weeks. So if you can wait, we'll get it to you before Christmas. Well before. Next, Rick.
This one comes from Travis Dusenberry in Virginia Beach.
Hey,
Virginia.
Travis.
This question is regarding drawer making.
Could be a friend of Jeff's.
Since everything is referenced off the bottoms of the drawer pieces, how do you lay out the pins on the drawer front if it is wider than the drawer sides? I want the drawer front to cover the carcass shelf.
Yeah, like mine, like this one right here. You're referencing off of the bottom. What do I do when I do this?
I assume you reference off of the top.
Yeah, but you have to get the drawer front to match the drawer opening. You can. Oh shoot! I'm having a senior moment here, but what did I do? Normally, your drawer front is going to be flush with your drawer, the drawer sides, but in this case, it isn't. And I think what I would do, I can't remember. I'm really struggling to remember. But if I'm challenged with it right now, what would I do? So I would go in. Usually, my drawer front is going to be wider than the opening. So once this has become my standard, if I went in and run it through a table saw, so this surface was perfectly parallel to that surface, then I could use this as a reference for my joint when I put my dovetail together. So So that should put this in the same spot, but that's faulty too. There's a way I do it, and I'm gonna have to defer this because we're shooting that video right now. In fact, we're doing it on drawer backs. The significance of a drawer back in getting a perfectly fit drawer. And and in the video we finish the whole thing, so I have to come up with a way. I have to remember how I did it. I may have to go back and watch one of my videos to remember it. So bear with me. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram because Frick and I have a new plan. So on Mondays, every Monday we release. What do we call it, Frick? Tip of the week.
Tip of the week. Yeah.
Monday's tip of the week. It's always under a minute. Wednesdays we do
Cool Tool
Wednesday.
Yep.
Introduce a really cool tool to you. And Friday, which we'll do tonight, is going to be Rob's Book of the Week. So tonight we'll shoot it. It's only going to be a minute long. And I'll introduce you to the book, and I'll give you at least one example of why it's such a good book to add to your library. So register and follow us on Instagram, and you'll get more information.
Ferris Bueller is on.
Ferris is on? Hey, Ferris. Ferris is a double amputee from, pretty sure he was in Iraq. But, wow, I didn't even know. Good, great guy, huge advocate for helping other vets. And I apologize because I was going to have him talk to each group, and we get swamped in there, but I need him to do a video or something for me so that we can show it to them. But yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ferris. Glad you're here.
Bobby Bosworth wants to know how to take the rust off of my PEC squares and dividers.
Now, get yourself a Sandiflex. Ask Luther about that. Just don't get him to tell you how to pronounce it. Where is mine? Oh, there they are right there. So we sell them on our website. There's 3 different grits. And they go in color: yellow, green, and red. What you want for most all of your tools. Is this a fine one? Yeah, I thought so. You're going to want the green one to take it, and it'll just clean them up famously well. Here's the green one. And the nice thing is the grit is all the way through it, so it's not like a piece of sandpaper that it wears off the top. So I will take this, and I'll just clean this up real quick.
The green is about 120 grit.
Is it?
Yeah. Yellow's 220.
Actually, that might be rust. I think it's glue.
Rust from glue.
Works really well. We use a lot of them. We go through a lot of them. You got metal tools, you need to have these. And then get yourself some, well, actually, never mind, because that's not a plane, it's a square you're talking about. Next, Frick.
Scott Hobbs in Iowa wants to know if you've ever thought about making personalized hockey pucks out of exotic wood and using the proceeds to help fund your Purple Heart project.
I'll run that one by Moose, and we'll get back to you.
Barry in Grand Cayman.
Hey, Barry. I had relatives in Grand Cayman. We took the whole family there on a cruise one time, and I actually ended up running into somebody that knew him.
How hard would it be to make and fit traditional wooden top instead of an MDF top on the Cosman workbench? Have you any recommendations on how to add shoulder device to your design?
Well, the big advantage, the reason we don't do a wooden top, although we do offer the plywood one, is stability. My bench top is no longer flat. There's a big bow in it that way. I got to go in and resurface this. What a pain. That one, never have to worry about it. Yes, you can put a wooden top on it. Just have to make sure that you only fasten it in the middle so that it can expand. And as far as a shoulder vise, been asked that a lot. and haven't really tackled it. So no, the answer is I haven't come up with an idea for that. Next, Rick.
Hilton Basley in Cornwall, UK.
Hey, Hilton.
Hi, Rob. I have a Schoberg Elite 2000 bench. I'm only 5'6", and it is too high for me. Can you suggest a way of lowering it, or should I make new legs?
Chainsaw. Yeah, I think you can cut the legs off easy enough. Cut some off the legs. I'm trying to think what the base looks like. Oh no, the base is there. It's a big piece like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, maybe not so much. Build a platform. The easiest way, build a platform to stand on when you're working. Otherwise, you got to go in and do something to saw them down. It's funny, we used to work on those Schobergs for many years running, and I don't remember in my mind exactly what it looks like, but I'm pretty sure that the end trestle is just a big rectangular frame, so you could take some off of it, but the pieces aren't that thick. Next, Rick.
John Bees in North Central Alabama.
Hi, John.
He says, Rob, you have more than a few children and grandchildren and have been involved in woodworking most of your life. So I think you're better qualified to answer this question than most. How does one encourage grandchildren, children, and other family members to take up woodworking? How did you do it? I want my family in the shop with me as much as possible. Thanks.
Brute force.
And
Money.
bribery.
And money, yeah.
Money, yes, money works best. Offer them a job. You know, everybody deserves an opportunity to work for some a reward. So get them, offer them. I would do that. I would offer them a job to sweep your shop, and you'll have them in there and pay them a little bit. And the other secret would be to find something that they're really interested in. I hate the whole skateboarding thing, but if you had a skateboarder and you wanted his attention, you say, why don't we make a custom skateboard? Oh, yes, that'll get them in the shop. I used to make little paddle wheels with them. We used to make rockets, all kinds of stuff. So just get in tune with what they're interested in and then say, you know what, we can actually make that. And you'll hold their attention. Good plan. Next, Rick.
Ali in Victoria, Australia. My question is regarding this.
Allie in Victoria?
Australia, yeah.
This is tomorrow.
My question is regarding the spoke shave, the flat one. It does bounce on me when I use it. I wonder what the reason is, how to prevent the bouncing. I appreciate your help.
The bouncing spoke shave. Well, the first thing you want to examine is how sharp is your blade. And it's most spoke shaves, the blade sits at a low angle, so it's really easy to accidentally get that bevel that you've sharpened too high to where the blade is not, the tip of the blade is not engaging the wood, the heel is instead of the toe. And now you got to drop the blade even further to get it to engage. And when it does engage, it's angling up. So it's going to come in and it's going to lift up.
It's going to
and
bounce.
it'll come in and it'll give up. It'll bounce. So check the angle. Check the primary, tertiary, all the angles on the bevel side and see if you didn't exceed the bedding angle. That may very well be the problem.
What is the bedding angle?
I don't know. I haven't measured it, but it's low. That's why they're so hard to sharpen. The other thing I would, along that same line, is you want to make sure that the blade is sharp. If the blade isn't sharp, then you have to stick the blade out farther in order to get it to engage. And in doing so, there's just a lot of resistance, and that's gonna be rough because you're applying a lot of force. When you apply a lot of force, you lose control. So instead of having a nice, smooth stroke, you're boom, jump, dig, jump. Nightmares. Nightmares learning how to use a spoke shave. But I put a lot of time in the spoke shaves because when I made those 200 chairs for the long, that's how I shaped them. All the backs that have that slope, I did that all with a spoke shave. So I did that almost 200 times. I would cut it out on the bandsaw, and then to get rid of all the bandsaw marks, I'd have to come in and spoke shave it. Find a reason to do a lot of practice with it, and you'll get really good. But check the sharpening. It's almost always a sharpening issue. Next, Frick.
Next question is from Alfred Borg in Melbourne, Australia.
Hi, Alfred.
He says, hi, Rob.
Aussies are out in full force this morning.
I've been using my hand plane a lot and sharpening as I go. My secondary bevel has become quite large, around half the length of the primary bevel. The sharpness isn't lasting long, and the plane wants to skate over the material. Is it time to grind a new primary bevel?
Yeah, you should have reground a new primary bevel a long time ago. When my secondary bevel gets a 1/16 of an inch, I'm like, oh, I need to grind this. So, yeah, long time ago. Primary reason for regrinding a primary bevel is your secondary bevel has grown to the point where it's taking too long to sharpen. So, yeah. Any more vets, Kev? Mitch? Bo?
Ken?
Ken! Thank you. I was getting there. I was working my way through the alphabet. Frick? Ken's scratching his head. What do we got? Are we running out of questions?
Yeah.
How are we on donations? What are we giving away? Do we know?
I can't access that.
Well, who's doing that? Ken, do you? You can't either?
It's sometimes Gina. I don't know if she's. Oh, yep. She just sent it to me. We're around 3,300.
Okay, so that's 3.
How about we do that now?
I think we have to give away 4 because didn't the Santa Claus... Oh, and big shout out if Santa Claus and his wife and Mrs. Claus are watching.
You're called two people Santa Claus, so you
Yeah,
have
I know. Okay. So
One looks like Santa Claus.
one looks like Santa Claus. Big white beard.
One we don't know if he looks like
And they're
Santa
both
Claus.
Vietnam vets, too, by the way. So not the Santa Claus that was here in the class, but the other Santa Claus, he and Mrs. Claus, I apologize for not giving them a shout out sooner. Big shout out. They're doing a big fundraiser. Can't talk about it just yet. To benefit a couple of charities, Purple Heart being one of them, which is huge. We'll talk more about that as time passes. The other John, what's John's last name?
Beck.
John Beck, donated $1,000. And I don't know if it got recorded. I think from the note that Gina left me, which was...
It was right at the end of the live, and Frick wasn't paying attention.
So it didn't get accounted for?
That's right.
Okay, so that means we got to give away... We're at least 4,300... What are we at? What did Gina say?
43.
33.
33
Yeah,
plus 1,000?
43. Yeah.
So we're at 43. So we're giving away 4 prizes tonight.
Wait, let me confirm that.
We'll get confirmation on that. And one more question, Frick?
No, I'm off that screen now.
Oh, come on, Frick.
No, by the time we do the draw and you wrap it up, it'll be well over time.
Yeah. When's our next live? 2 weeks from tonight?
No, we can go back to Saturday.
Oh, can we? In 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm done weddings for the year.
Oh, you are?
He
Yeah.
quit. He quit.
Yeah.
You quit?
No one
For
gets
us.
married in November.
So we have to make sure that we do it when Super Dave's here,
That's 3 weeks.
because they're going to want to have him standing beside his The Art of Seduction painting picture, showing it off.
So that's 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
You want to wait that long?
No, can't do that. We'll have to do a special one. Maybe we'll do a double, a half and half. Any more vets, Frick? Ken? Any shout outs that I've forgotten? I really want you guys to see those Damascus bog oak too. So really interesting story on bog oak. This is oak trees that have fallen into a peat bog and have been there for thousands of years, and they come out ebonized. They're black, and it's really cool. And Jeff has some, and he makes the what do you call the wooden section of a knife? What's that little piece called? It has a name.
Handle.
Nah, yeah, right, handle. I forget. Somebody will speak up and tell me. Anyway, really cool knives. You should check them out. If I had his permission, I'd offer that as one of our prizes for tonight. If he speaks up soon enough, we will. So what are we giving away? Did you verify it, Frick? Or Jake?
Or?
Not yet. Ow. I mean, we can give away at least 3.
So we're giving away 3 dead cats. And we'll give away one of Jesse's cell phone holders, and we'll give away Kim's purse. And we'll give away one of Danny's
knife scales.
Knife scales. That's what they're called. We'll give away one of Danny's doodads. What are they called?
Tray?
Yeah, trays, serving trays. And then we got to decide between the other three. Since we're already contributing to the O'Connor family, we'll give away one of Kev's carved in stone. Slate or granite, your choice. Tell me when you're ready, Frick.
Super Dave wants to know if the scales came from the Ratlin Bog.
Somebody said to give a shout out to the Slack channel for the training alumni.
Yeah, so the Slack channel, well, yeah, that's where a lot of those guys, yeah. Slack, I don't know enough about it, but it's a way of communicating. So we've got at least 3 classes that are on that, and it's good to see these guys back and forth showing off the stuff they're making. Really tip my hat to you guys for keeping each other engaged. Big, huge shout out to the Bench Brigade. Jack Lane had Jeff O'Connor and I on yesterday with 76 federal government employees who work in insurance who wanted to know more about what we were doing. So we went on there and had their attention for an hour or so, and Jeff gave a really good testimonial as somebody benefiting from the Purple Heart Project. Changes lives, telling you. If you've got somebody in your life that's really severely messed up because of combat, put them in touch with us. It'll help. So Jack and Jim Merzetti and Chris Chahusky and all of the Bench Brigade builders. David Robinson is building one right now with Jack to take to Jesse, which is just awesome. So thank you guys. You don't realize what a huge part it is, because a lot of these guys couldn't continue to woodwork if they didn't have a bench. And they get pretty excited knowing that it's coming to them. All right, first dead cat we're going to give away tonight goes to...
All right, let's go.
Roll that drum, Frick.
It is going to Alan McEwen in Ontario. He wins all the time.
That's about the 9th dead cat he's got. People are going to start wondering, taking in strays. Alan's a great guy. Retired university professor. Taught me a lot about farm science.
All right, next one is going to Jamie Fagel in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hey, Jamie.
Raleigh. Oh, yeah, of course.
Another frequenter. Frick, how many do we have on tonight?
437.
Not bad for a Friday night.
William Moak in Canada.
Whereabouts in Canada?
Doesn't say. He just put
Big
Canada.
country.
We'll
Congratulations, William. You'll need it. My brother lives in Lacombe. Big shout out to Randy. That's another shout out to do. So Randy and his son Carter. So we needed a new van to transport the vets. So we bring the vets and we fly them into Bangor, Maine, which is 3.5 hours away. We drive down there and pick them up, bring them back, drive them back down, pick them up. And our van was spent. We turned it into a cargo van. Closest van we could find was in Lethbridge, Alberta. And my brother Randy, bless his soul, he and his son volunteered to drive that van all the way across the country, and then came here and helped and did roofs for us that we needed. Coming back and doing some more. Brother, love you. And Carter, remember what I told you. Go to work on it, and I'll send you some money soon. So big shout out to them.
All right. Next
Anyway, I brought that up only because it's snowing, and their high temperature on Tuesday, I think, is going to be minus 14 Celsius. High of the day. Meanwhile, what was it here today? 18 and sunny. Yeah, ours Brandy would say, well, this isn't healthy. Next dead cat, Frick. We gave away all 3, didn't we?
Yeah. So.
Okay, let's give away Jesse's cell phone holder.
Okay. It's going to
Jesse Rufiange, not to be confused with Jesse Paratus. Big shout out to Jesse Paratus too, who is doing extremely well. The vet that started this whole thing, combat wounded vet, Marine.
Stephen Totten in Ventura, California.
Stephen in Ventura is getting Jesse's cell phone stand. You'll love it. And now we'll give away, let's do Kim's purse, handbag, European carry-all. And if you're a male and you want this, if you're a female, you're going to want it. If you're a male and you want this for your wife, that's fine. We'll give you the option if you're male and you don't want a handbag. You see it, you might. We'll give you the option of one of Jeff's. Did Jeff ever say anything about a knife, whether or not we could give away a Damascus knife? I'm going to say we'll give away one of Jeff's Damascus steel.
Oh, no, he says you have his permission.
Oh, good. We'll give away one of Jeff's Damascus. So next guy.
It's Mark Smith. You won.
Mark Smith?
Yep.
Oh, Mark will get one for. Mark will get the purse for his wife. Although it's American purse. Well, he might. Congratulations, Mark. Mark up in Ontario?
Yep.
Awesome.
Everybody's watching you eat, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got food on your face.
That
You're
happens
making
all
them
the time.
sick.
No. It was
There's
a
a
good
big hunk of
donut.
chicken stuck between your two front teeth.
Doing the face down.
Homemade donuts.
Oh, the potato ones?
I don't know. It was delicious either way.
Okay, what do we next prize? This is going to be for Kevin Burris. Kevin Burris laser engraving on stone. You've got a date. You want to get yourself out of the doghouse, put your anniversary date on this with some nice stuff that Kevin will design for you. Tell your wife this is permanent, honey.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
This is going to Michael Dodo in Texas.
Hey, Michael. Congratulations. Last prize of the night is a Danny Bell carryall. Hand dovetailed. We got to come up with a good name for it. I
Oh,
apologize.
He gave it to me.
He did? What's he calling it?
Someone did. It's a caddy. A Danny
Caddy.
caddy. Danny caddy.
Danny Caddy.
And it's going to David J. Pisarski in Costa Mesa, California.
Hey, David in Costa Mesa. Congratulations. That's it?
Yep.
Wait a minute. That was 3. Did we determine, Frick?
4.
There is 4?
It's supposed to be 4.
So we have one more.
All right.
So what's this one going to be? This will be either a Damascus steel knife or a purse. They get the option. You guys better take the purse. Your wife finds out you didn't, you'll be in trouble.
All right. And this is going to Ray Crawford in Ohio.
Ray in Ohio. He'll do the purse. He's in the United States. Beautiful handbag. I got to say handbag. It's a little more fancy. Is that it?
That is it.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate you being on here. Appreciate your support. It means a ton to these guys. If you came here and spent 5 minutes with them, you'd understand the importance, how important it is for them. It's just it's a real tearjerker. But we love doing it. Can't wait for April to roll around. Watch for our dates to be released before we broadcast again. If you're interested in coming into the class, I'm telling you now, you need to be on the newsletter and you need to sign up ASAP. So get your permission and all that taken care of now while you still have a few days. See you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks plus a day. It'll be a Saturday date, please.
Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get the notification.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you the date. So our next broadcast will be on November 19th. Don't forget to get on our newsletter. Go to RobCosman.com at the bottom. Go to RobCosman.com to apply for our PHP scholarship. If you are a combat wounded vet, you're welcome to it. Okay? Have you folks wonderful 2 weeks, and we will see you. Oh, happy. Did you say Happy Remembrance Day? Yeah. Happy Remembrance Day. Don't forget, wear a poppy. Show your appreciation, wear a poppy, particularly if you're in Canada. Okay, we'll see you soon.